Hello, welcome to Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sport's one and only Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
Hi Daniel, how are you? You okay?
I'm very good, thanks. Keith Jackson's still on his holidays, so, every cloud in that.
We'll welcome him back with open arms.
Something like that. The big story today, Swanee, I know you're into your golfing and that, but the big story today was at the Samisa Stadium.
Yeah.
St Mirren against Rangers. Look, I know Rangers rallied, but it just doesn't feel like Russell Martin can get going with this Rangers team, can he?
No, that's another really, really poor result today. And another poor performance into the bargain as well. And I think the biggest concern for the Rangers fans has to be the fact that for all the issues that's come before and the matches before and the worries that had already been developing, it's a massive game for Rangers today, just to on the back of what's been happening, just to go out and put in a big performance and just allay some of the concerns of the fans. And yet again, it was just a sluggish, lethargic start, a little bit of fire at the end to try and rescue a point that they managed to do. But that's not enough. Rangers need to be better. They need to be much better. And Russell Martin's currently fighting fires at the moment by the look of it. The fans haven't been happy in the lead up to the game, and they most certainly won't be happy after it. It's another bad day at the office for Russell Martin.
I mean, they can't. We were talking off earlier before we come on. Honestly, see, for the first, I would even go as far as say 70 minutes, they were just abysmal Rangers. No intensity. Players that looked like they didn't want to be there. It was really, really poor. And look, I like Russell Martin. I'm sure he's a very good coach. I think he speaks very well. But there's so many players there that you just think feel it in the wrong picture. I'm sure they're very, very talented, but we go on about it all the time. Do they have the mentality to play for Rangers? Did they get, look, you have to win every single game? That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, we spoke about this in Hotline Live a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? That when Russell Martin had his howitzer after the opening Premiership game against Motherwell, we sort of wondered if this was an attempt to try and get some more turnover of players and to get some of the guys with a constant losing mentality and have just settled into this cycle that they're in to get some more of them out the door. But I suppose the worrying thing for the Rangers fans is quite a few of the names that have come in. Now, it's early. You don't want to go early on these things. But a lot of the guys that Russell Martin has brought in don't really look up to it at this stage. But I will say it's early, but there is some alarming signs with some of the guys that have come in the door. And what we've seen so far, a few of them don't look up to it either, and that would have to be a concern, because then if you're turning over the guys that are already there and you're bringing in guys that are not that much better, it's just an endless cycle for Rangers that they just don't seem to be able to get out of at the moment. So, not good at all for the Rangers fans.
Well, look, neither of us were actually at the game in Paisley this afternoon, but one man who was Record Sports' Andy Newport. I caught up with him a little bit earlier on, just after the full-time whistle, and let's hear his take on today's events. Andy, I know Rangers rallied, particularly in the last sort of 15-20 minutes, but the first hour, I don't know what you thought. I thought it was another really poor performance.
Just more of the same, really, isn't it? There was, again, sort of maybe the first 10 minutes, there seemed to be a wee bit of a zip about Rangers, but, up against some proper energy, some proper commitment levels from St Mirren. Anytime, the guys in midfield try to get in the ball, they just had that really impressive midfield trio of Killian Phillips, Mark O'Hara and Keanu Bakis. They're all over Rangers like a rash, and they just suffocated them anytime they tried to build out. They just couldn't get into that sort of fluent rhythm, and as I say, it was just more of the kind of disjointed, messy, ragged sort of stuff that we've seen from this Rangers team so far. So, a lot of question marks, a lot of anger still at the end of both halves from the Rangers support that were here. So, I think we do need to stress. I thought St Mirren were absolutely terrific, and I think they feel really unlucky not to have got themselves a win here today. I thought they were absolutely superb. A team that's top six for 3 years in a row, and I think if they carry on like this, I think that's only their second point they've picked up so far this season. But if they carry on like this, I think they'll be right in there. But as I say, I think Rangers have got some huge questions facing them going into a huge week.
Well, very quickly, Andy, while we're talking about positives, obviously St Mirren, I agree, were absolutely great. Rangers, I mean, they can look at Jack Butland, pulled off a couple of really good saves, particularly that one from Gogic late on. Finlay Curtis as well. Brilliant goal, showed the right attitude. But again, it's almost damning in the sense that Rangers shouldn't be turning to an 18-year-old to bail them out.
Exactly that. I mean, we just spoke to Russell Martin there. He was quick to praise Finlay Curtis, but basically saying that a few of the guys, especially those that are wanting away from the club, could be doing with learning a lesson from him. That this is a guy that 18-year-old, and his one thought is about trying to do the best, not for himself, but for the club, for the team. And there's, I'm sure as we're about to discuss, there's certainly a few players in this dressing room that that's not the first priority. Let's put it that way.
Well, you mentioned it, Andy. Obviously, Hamza Igaman is the name on every Rangers fan's lips at the minute. You've just heard Russell Martin speak a little bit more about it in his post-match press conference. So what is the script? Russell Martin saying he told him he was injured at 60 minutes?
Yeah, said he was, as far as he knew, he was fit. He wouldn't have been on the bench had he not been fit. He was turned to him at 60 minutes, was looking to go with two up front for the second half, having started the game without a recognised striker and Taylor Asgard in that sort of false nine position. Turns to Hamza Gamani and he says, right, get your boots on. And the Moroccan turned and said, no, I've hurt my quad in warming up at half time, but I can't come on. Russell Martin didn't say as much, but from his body language, it didn't seem that he was entirely confident in the veracity of those claims. Also alluded to the fact that there's been an offer. Not quite sure who yet, but I think we're safe to assume that it was probably Leo who have been linked with Hamza Agaman all summer, who've made a bid this week that's been rejected. So has his head been turned by that? So one way or another, it's another shambolic turn of events for a club that seems to have no issue finding bother this season or in recent seasons, to be true. But just it's the last thing that Russell Martin needs. His team is toiling. They lack fluency, they lack spark, they lack confidence. And here's a guy who last year showed some real glimpses of talent, some real potential. There's been rumours, there's been speculation about his future, but surely the best thing for him to realise whatever ambitions he's got is to do it out in the pitch. Yeah. Obviously, there's only, I think we're 5-6 days away left from the transfer window closing. He's clearly decided that he doesn't want to risk any potential move that might come before September the 1st. He's decided he's not going to be involved, which I think Rangers fans have got every right to be furious about. He gets paid handsomely, I'm sure, to play for Rangers, and if he is not injured as he says he is, that is an absolute disgrace, frankly. Aye,
that's bang out of order if that is the case. But look, on Russell Martin himself, Andy, we talked about him as kind of role as Rangers manager after the game the other night in Europe. Where does this leave him now? I mean, his first 9 games, he's got 3 wins. In the league, they've only scored once from open play, 3 1-1 draws in a row. Are we really at a stage on the 24th of August he's under pressure to keep his job?
I think the eyes of supporters, that's the case. I mean, I made that point this week. I mean, we simply don't know how the new board are going to react to these kind of circumstances, how they're going to react to fan fury, fan pressure. But the eyes of supporters, I think a lot of them have simply made their minds up. They weren't, as I said, in midweek after we spoke after the British first leg, they weren't entirely enamoured with him when he first came in, and what they've seen of him so far has done nothing to dispel whatever concerns they had. As I said, I thought that he would have a lot to do to win over supporters. When you look at his track record, I think he'd been a manager for something like 250 games before he came up here, and his goal difference from that time was something like +4 before he came up here, and I don't think it's nudged much further than that so far. So for a guy who's supposedly about building attacking fluid teams that beat teams just purely with their attacking and their passing intent that will carve you open, I think we've seen so little of that. Even at times, there are times you can see with the movements off the ball that you can see how they're trying to open space, but it has to be done so much quicker. they waste so many opportunities just by being so slow, by having such a slow tempo. They take the extra touches, unnecessary touches, just allow opponents, especially teams like St Mirren, are so well drilled just to sort of drop back into a shape and shut off all those gaps. So whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, it has to be done far sharper and far quicker and far better, frankly. And that still looks a long, long way off so far.
You mentioned there Bruges, Andy. Bruges is the next challenge on Wednesday night for Rangers, and then of course a week today, Celtic at Ibrox. It already feels like a monumental week, not just for Rangers but for Russell Martin.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope would have been that they could have got a result today, a positive result today, and not just that, but performance as well. Go over to Bruges, just I think overturning a 2-goal deficit over there is a huge task for any team right now, not least a Rangers team that are, really bang out of form. But I think that the hope would be that they could go over there and just regain some pride somehow, and then that would give them maybe a little bit of confidence going into the Celtic game. But you've got to say that looks a huge ask now. I thought Bruges were excellent the other night. I think they took their foot off the gas a wee bit in the second half, but even then still probably tested Jack Butland more than Rangers were able to test Simon Mignolet. So I must say I'm starting to fear for Russell Martin. This is, nobody likes to see managers go. Certainly not this early into a season, but there's no signs that this is anywhere near clicking. And if things continue to get or to go as badly as they are right now, then I think the fans will make up the board's mind for them. I think it'd be hard for anybody, even guys that aren't based in Glasgow, to ignore the strength of feeling. And we saw the other night last week, the Bruges first leg. What was it, 43,000? So you're talking about the best part of 10,000 seats lying empty at Ibrox last week.
That's true.
That's usually the type of thing that makes a board of directors and chairman sort of sit up and take notice when fans are voting with their feet. When it affects revenue streams, that's usually when these things are picked up upon. So Russell Martin's got a huge week ahead of him. If he can get a big result against Bruges, something to show a spark, show that things are heading in a better direction. And, goodness, if he can get a result against Celtic, then that certainly helps. But I think he's got a long, long way to go to win over the fans that have already made their minds up on him.
Andy, as ever, it's an absolute pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. Thanks so much, and safe travel up the road when it comes.
Thanks, Daniel.
Cheers, Andy. Andy Newport there after the final whistle. There's tons for us to talk about, Swanee. Before we do that, though, I think we can hear from both managers after today's game. And if you're watching at home, you want to get involved in the conversation, please send in your comments. Some brilliant comments have come in already. But let's hear from both managers before we get stuck in.
Yeah, Finley's been amazing. He's probably disappointed he hasn't played so much. But he's been brilliant. He's so reliable. He's really early on in his journey. But do you know what he has? He has so much care for the club, for other people, for his age. He wants to fight and run for other people. He wants to take the ball. He wants to score. And he just has a lack of fear right now, which you have to keep in his game, because it's the hardest thing in the world for a young player to then stay like that and stay a bit free. So we have to keep him like that. And he's a really good example to some of the other guys.
What's this game with Sean Giovanni, Russell?
So wanted to bring him on around 60 minutes. And he said he has a sore quad, so he can't come on.
Did you know about that? Presumably,
He's not fit, yeah. So he said he'd done it, warm me up.
So the thing's got anything to do with the speculations?
Yeah, we turned down a bit this week, but we'll assess his injury and I have to trust the Hamza. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think it comes in that category of people with one eye on the exit?
Well, I think when you've had a bit turned down the week and then this happens maybe.
Quite frustrating for that. For you personally, is that for you?
I think it happens in football, but I'll go back to Cyril again. He's worked really hard to get fit, hasn't quite been fit. He'll probably be fit for Wednesday. So whilst he's made it really clear what his intention would be or what his desire would be, there's been no problem. No. So he trains properly, performs with the team, been great. But everyone's different. Every human being's different. Cyril's quite experienced. Some of the guys are really young. So the situation will be cleared up in the next 10 days. I'm quite calm about it. We'll assess Hamza. Hopefully it's not too bad, and we'll see what happens.
So Cyril's also asked to leave, has he?
No, Cyril hasn't asked to leave. He's not asked to leave once. But we've had a lot of discussions about it. So we'll see what happens.
You linked with Miovski this morning,
We're a bit linked with a lot of players. I think having 2 bids for strikers now, it's probably common sense that we would look to replace him at some point. But he's obviously another one that's been linked like with many players.
I thought we were outstanding in the first half of the game. Created numerous chances and just a little bit of decision making, lacking that quality in certain decisions. And then second half, we tired. The 3 centre forwards who give us a real platform and allow us to play some really good football. They both tired. So we need more from them in terms of can they last 75, 80 minutes before we start making changes. But like all in all, we needed to defend. We were very good. The disappointment is it's from a second phase of a set play, which we sort of half done our job and maybe could have threw ourselves at the ball a little bit more, but it takes a couple of ricochets. Rangers, credit to them, came out second half, made changes, spooked it maybe a little bit for 20, 25 minutes. So that's something we need to improve on. But, overall, we're happy with the point, but we believe it could have been more. But they may feel the exact same.
Yeah, well, that must show how far this team has come that you're sitting here after a draw with Rangers and thinking you're disappointed with it. I mean, you've set new standards here, haven't you?
Yeah, but I haven't. Not all the players have because of their performances. We didn't get beat by anybody last year in the top 6. We've had the hardest start in the league. And we've not looked out of place against any of the top sides, Hearts and Rangers and Celtic. So again, we want more. We're not happy with that. We feel our decision making, that 20-minute period in the second half where we could have got more ownership of the game. We show we can do that. We show we can be brave. And we need another quick striker. We need someone that will run in behind. When Rangers were really expansive, we probably didn't have that, other than young Evan. We've got people in the building like Malik and Jamar who will come, hopefully after the international break. But that's finances, unfortunately, and that's maybe where we are. But the group that are here are giving me absolutely everything and showing a large amount of quality as well.
Both managers there, Swanee. First of all, I want to get your take on Hamza Agamani on that situation, because plenty of comments coming in just now. Dennis says Igaman should never kick a ball for Rangers again. Pulled a fast one to get his value lowered. Either make him train with the kids for the rest of his contract or sell at a lower price with a 50% sell on. But there's actually a couple of people saying, I mean, this one here, can't blame Hamza. It's the manager's fault. I don't really get where he's coming from with that. And Paul says, is Russell Martin throwing Igaman under the bus to deflect from the team's performance? So, I mean, what do you make of that, Swanee?
If Hamza Igamani was fit enough to go on the pitch and didn't go on the pitch, I think I heard some aeroplanes flying over Andy Newport's head when he was doing the stuff. He should be on one of them, and he certainly should not be anywhere near Ibrox again if that's the case. Now, you have to get to the bottom of it. We heard Russell Martin say you have to take him, you have to trust the lad, that what he said, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. If he'd done a quad in the warm-up, you surely alert the management team, and the management team know about it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound good. Listen, we've heard a lot south of the border in recent weeks over players and how they go about getting moves. You only need to look at the Alexander Isak situation, and players do it in different ways. You've got Eze, who was basically carried out the door at Crystal Palace because he did everything professionally. Guys like, the word was that Kyogo wanted out of Celtic a long time before he did go, but he never down tools at any point. He kept working away. Matt O'Reilly did the same. If Hamza Igamani, as Andy says, is on the books, he's being handsomely paid, I'm sure, by Rangers. Rangers needed him today.
Yeah.
Rangers needed him at that point of the game. The manager quite clearly needed him. They needed somebody to go on and get them a goal. And it does not look good for me. It doesn't look good at all. And I feel slightly sorry for Russell Martin in that instance, because I've seen situations with managers before. I think we all have. He can't sit there and say he'll never play for me again, because if you're trying to sell a player, you can't tell the buying clubs he's out the door. Look what happened to Yanis Hadji. When Philip Mont basically said he won't play for me again, there was never any chance of anybody making a proper bid for the guy, because they knew, well, Rangers are in no position to bargain. So it's difficult for a manager to sit there and say that. He's not going to say that. He's never going to say that, even if he thinks it. But it will not. Russell Martin has to act strongly on this, because there's things going on at Rangers just now that on the pitch that are not good, and a lot of it goes back to what people say about the way the players are behind the scenes and things, the way it's been the last few years. There's just not that right mentality there. Well, that's a perfect example. If that's a mentality at a goal down, when you need someone, it needs to be all hands on deck. But we need to find out for sure what the player's injury situation is first.
Yeah, no, look, for what it's worth, I completely agree. If he is at it, for want of a better phrase, he should never play for Rangers again. I mean, he's made thousands of pounds this week alone.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I just find it very difficult to believe that if you do an injury in the warm-up, you don't tell the management team.
Exactly.
Surely if you're warming up, you pull up, you feel something, you've got to tell the management team straight away. Why would you say nothing and go sit on the bench? You know you're likely to be shouted upon.
Exactly.
So that doesn't add up to me.
And as you say, like, look, Rangers, I do think we're pretty...
Oh, sorry, I should butt in there, Daniel. I should butt in there. You might not say it if you're desperate to go on the pitch. Some players are desperate to play a cup final and the gaffer says, how are you? I'm all right, gaffer, even though you're feeling a bit because you want to play. You maybe don't say anything if you do want to play, but if you don't want to play, you certainly don't say. I can't imagine you just pull something and then decide you're not going to say anything about it.
Aye. And they were awful today, Rangers, for large parts, but in the last 15 minutes, they could have won it. That's the thing. And a player like a man could have easily come on and scored the winner. Easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
doesn't look, and it just pours more petrol onto the flames of what's going on just now. It's just another bad sign.
Aye, no, I completely agree. Well, look, away from Igaman, we're getting plenty of comments as well on Russell Martin, the Rangers manager. Look, I don't even know where to start with these, Swanee, because we're getting so many on them. Let me throw a few of these at you and get your take on them. Let me have a look. Robert simply says, get rid of the manager now. Enough is enough. Ian says, shambolic performance again today. Where do they go with this manager team? Your long Muppet says, what an absolute shambles. Martin has lost the players, fans and the plot. Sooner he's gone, the better. He's number one on the list to get rid of. The stadium will be empty seats if the board don't act. Ian says, a team that's slower than a still wearing a bowler hat going forward. No aggression, no passing forwards, not even the basic attributes to be a professional player. Absolute rigid rubbish. I think that more or less gets to the heart of how Rangers fans are feeling, Swanee. But look, I kind of said it to Andy, I'm at risk of repeating myself. Are we really on August 24th saying the Rangers manager is under pressure to lose his job?
Listen, if the fans aren't happy, clearly. But no, I don't think you can be saying that at all. I mean, where does it end? Where does it end with Rangers if that's the case? I mean, everybody knows that there has to be a root and branch with that squad. Everybody knows that. Everybody said it from before. And you can have your doubts about Russell Martin and the guys he's bringing in. I've said it myself. They're already not a great sign looking in. But if you think about Michael Beale coming in and Philip Clement coming in, it was almost like sticking plasters at the start and great results and great runs at the start and everything's okay and it's brilliant and these managers are great and then eventually the sticking plaster falls off and all the old failings come out. All that stuff has to be weeded out. Now, whether you believe Russell Martin's the man to do it or not, that's another question. But you cannot be talking about a manager after 9 games. I know it's Glasgow. I know it's fierce. The Rangers fans were always going to have to suffer some pain first. Now, they maybe didn't expect it to be this deep. I'm quite sure they would have expected to see a little bit more by this stage, and quite rightly. They should have expected to see a bit more. You should be winning at least one of your first 3 league games. Yeah. You cannot be talking about changing managers at this stage. Or else Rangers will just become a manager a month.
I know. No, you're right. I know.
I mean, players in the door that the next manager with it. I mean, it's that. No, that cannot be. That cannot happen.
9 league games, and by the way, look, it's not been great, but they did get by Panathinaikos, to get by Victoria Pilsen. Like, it's not been completely, disastrous. But I mean, the league, obviously 3 draws in a row. The thing is,
it's nowhere near good enough, Daniel. It's nowhere near good enough. The performances have been nowhere near it, the 3 Premiership games so far. Nowhere near it. But you cannot be talking about the manager at this stage. You just can't. You've got to have some time to implement some stuff. I'm not even at the close of the transfer window yet. Again, I go back to the fact you potentially would be a little bit concerned if you're a Rangers fan about some of the guys that are in the door already, but it's early. It's early, and it's going to take time for some of these attitudes to change and maybe for some of these new guys to get in and go up to speed with what's actually required. Because you come from certain levels south of the border, it's not a necessity to win every week. It takes a bit of getting used to for some players. Some players don't get it right away. Some get it right away, but some don't. You cannot be casting people aside in such a short space of time. I just don't think that's the way to go.
Just before we move on from Rangers Swanee, Mark in the comments says Martin is 2 scuddings away from his Jotters. I think game after his Hibs, they are more than capable of winning. Look, I might not get the chance to put you in the spot between now and then, but how do you see Rangers week going? Obviously Club Brugge away and then Celtic at home a week today.
You would have to say on the evidence of what we've seen from Rangers so far, it's certainly what we saw from the first leg in Ibrox against Bruges. Bruges were in control of the game after 20 minutes, and I think, as Andy made the point, the tie was done.
Yeah,
the tie was done and is done. And a lot will depend on Bruges' attitude. Do they want to get out and entertain their supporters and score a few goals? Or are they happy just to manage the tie and get through? Because Rangers, well, you can pin this back to me on the night after the game if Rangers get through, but you'd be absolutely staggered. And in terms of next Sunday, I think the game just basically hinges on what Celtic turn up. And to be fair, Celtic haven't really turned up in any of the last 3 games against Rangers last season. They didn't turn up in any of them.
Very fair point.
Certainly not to the levels that they can. So a lot will depend on how Celtic turn up at Ibrox. But if Celtic turn up on fire and playing well and possibly with a couple of new players on the door, although I'm sure we'll go into that at some point, if they turn up, they're capable of giving Rangers a severe beating. Yeah. Especially looking at the Rangers back line just now. I mean, some of the stuff today, I mean, everybody centred on the goal, but the defending for the 2 Alec Gogic chances late in the game for St Mirren.
How many warnings do you need about Alec Gogic? I mean, it's just like every time you put a ball in.
It's just bread and butter. It's just one ball in, you find the first man, the third man makes the run off it, waiting for the knockdown for the first one. I mean, you see that every week. Yeah. It's just remarkable stuff.
Well, we mentioned Celtic there. Obviously, they bit sticky in the first half yesterday against Livingston, 0-0 at half-time, and it kind of had the feeling that it might be one of those days, but second half much better. 3-0 victory for them. I mean, I actually think they've only conceded 1 goal domestically, well, 1 goal at all so far this season, Swanee. It was the League Cup game against Falkirk. I know that they want players in, Celtic fans, and Brendan Rodgers as well, but they do already kind of have this kind of relentless feel about them, Celtic. I mean, 8 changes yesterday. It didn't seem to make too big a difference, really.
Yeah, it was obviously a little bit disjointed in the early stages of the game, as you would expect. There was some, couple of lads making their first starts. Benjamin Negrin, who obviously ended up the match winner, started off in a wide area. Brendan Rodgers spoke about that after the game, about how it maybe upset the balance of what would normally happen on that side. But yeah, Celtic did what you would expect them to do. I thought it was interesting. I thought the crowd really stayed with the Celtic team despite all the frustrations around the board. I think they could see there was a lot of new players in there and guys who were needing a bit of encouragement, and they certainly stuck with them, which was a good sign for those players. And it was a job well done, and I think that's Negrin got 3 on the board now. And it's an interesting one because I mean, I think he scored them. I think when he signed, we discussed it. He'd scored the majority of his goals for a wide position in his previous club, and then is he a number 10? Is he a wide player? But I'm sure you'll go into the game in Kazakhstan, which is upcoming on Tuesday. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because you play away from home in Europe, and Celtic have been lethal in counter-attacking football. Certainly last year when they had Kyogo and Kuhn playing in those, and the speed that they would have. I'm not sure Negrin has that natural speed if you're going to play him in a wide area. However, you do play him in a wide area, it opens the opportunity for Arnie Engels to come back into the team. Yeah. And this might be a tight game that relies on a dead ball situation and Celtic to score a goal for a set piece. Because then they create a lot in open play at Celtic Park, and granted they didn't play well, and they might play better over there, but it could be tight and it could be tense, and it might just take a bit of something. I mean, Engels' dead ball delivery against Falkirk was absolutely brilliant in a cup tie the other week. So that might be something that Brendan Rodgers has to think about, especially if Negrin is capable of popping up with a goal from a wide area, but then it comes down to the pace angle. So there's lots for Celtic to juggle, but routine one for them and a job well done.
Well, a couple of comments coming in on the game on Tuesday. These ones have caught my eye. AJSC Tech says, Daily Record, please investigate what level of luxury Celtic had on their Kazakhstan flight today. Was it a Rockstar jet, free bar, foot massage? Did the flight path avoid Russia? And he also asked, by the way, how's Mick Gannon getting on with his horrendous journey to Kazakhstan. Please do a video blog chronicling Karen's visit to Almaty, including horse restaurants, pubs, and culture. I bring that up, Sonia. Have you ever done the dreaded trip to Kazakhstan?
I did it twice. I did the first Celtic one when they went to Astana and played Shakhtar Karaganda.
Is it as bad as everyone makes out, or is it all right?
The journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, the journey was fine. I think I mentioned this before. I'm not sure which particular band had used the plane before, but they had a plane with a bedroom in it, I think. Which is quite impressive. So no, I'm sure Celtic do a good job looking after the team and the players, and they will travel in some style. I'm not entirely sure how Michael's travelling, but certainly the twice I've been there, it was fine. I think that the first game with Astana as well, I was there for that game. And it was fine, yeah. I quite enjoyed it. I quite like adventures in different places. So
Marzuno asking the comments how much a pint is.
I wouldn't know that. It was 120 for a sparkling water. I don't know what the pint is.
Body's a temple.
In ruins. Absolute ruins. It's not expensive for a beer.
I mean, just on that as well, I wanted to get your takes on the game on Tuesday. Adam Eder. I know he missed yesterday. I think it's a knee problem, but he's got an injury problem. If he's fit, or do you think he'll be pushed to play? The reason why I'm asking, I kind of feel his confidence looks a bit shot after the other night, and I wouldn't be stunned to see Maeda through the middle.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either. Listen, it's a big call, but I thought Yamada showed a little bit yesterday in terms of his movement and a bit of pace as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's definitely a player there.
Starting that lad in a Champions League qualifier with so much at stake, probably asking a bit too much. But Celtic lacked pace and penetration in the first game. I mean, it was clearly everybody and it was difficult because the Kairat sat in, and we're not sure how Kairat will approach the game. It's certainly the experience that I have with these teams that they won't be overly aggressive on the front foot on their own patch as well. They'll probably play a similar style. Maybe not quite as defensive, but they're not going to be committing bodies forward, left, right, and centre. So Celtic are going to have to work to break them down again. And I think you have to have Maeda in there. I just think the intensity he sets for the Celtic team in terms of his pressing, his work rate, he sparks everybody else. And I think legs might be something that's important for them. But if you do that, it then opens the issues of who plays in the wide areas. Is Yang going to be up to a game like that? I would imagine James Forrest is almost certain to play, almost certain to start the game. And given his experience, and he's been there, seen it and done it in these games. He scored a winner against Karaganda, remember, back in the day. So I'd imagine James Forrest is a certainty. So I guess the big decision is, does Brendan Rodgers feel that he needs Maeda off one of the sides, or does he feel as though he can trust Yang?
Yeah.
That's really the call. And this comes back to, he should never have been left in this situation.
Yeah.
He's got so few options, shouldn't be in this situation. And this comes back to why the Celtic board are under so much pressure for the fans at the moment, because the manager should never have been left in this position. There should be players there to be able to take up these positions. You now have a situation where the Celtic fans can't be sure if Dyson Maeda can be released through the middle because they don't know whether the manager really, really needs him to play wide.
Yeah,
that is just a preposterous state of affairs when you're playing for a place in the Champions League, given what happened last season and how the steps that Celtic made and where you really felt as though they'd made real progress and something to really build on. It's hard to imagine they've been placed in this position. And in fairness, even if they get through this tie, it still doesn't escape the blame. They should not have been in this situation to start with, and they've run a massive risk. And people talk about Brendan Rodgers and that kind of situation and how he must be feeling. What about the players?
No.
Who did so well last year? Guys like Callum McGregor, who give you absolutely everything and perform, and he's had to go through a lot playing in Europe with Celtic, some real disappointments. He's then got a team round about him last year. He's at the heartbeat of it, and it's really starting to get somewhere. How must he be feeling?
No. Well, John, that's what I mean. People have been saying, oh, Maeda looks a bit different. He looks a bit... Actually, that crossed my mind. Maybe he's looking at this going, why have we got no help here? Why are we constantly getting assets stripped and our best players sold with no replacements?
Well, I mean, I think a lot was made last season about the fact that Daizan Maeda was probably having to be overused because he was having to play two positions, essentially. You know, he maybe start a game wide, and then when he was needed in the last half hour, he would end up playing through the middle. Or, you know, he would be swapped out and do something different. He was probably overworked at the end of the year, especially given how much he puts into games.
Mm-hmm.
And you're now in a situation again where Celtic basically need Daizan Maeda to play two positions on Tuesday night. They really need him wide, but they really need him through the middle.
They need two of them, eh?
You know, it's like, and yeah, if Daizan Maeda's looking at that and he's feeling a little bit disgruntled about it, well, do you know what? So what? So he should, because he saw his compatriot walk out the door in January and must have expected that he was going to be replaced by now.
Yeah.
And we're now in the last week of August and his Kyogo's still not replaced then, for fear of sounding like Big Son. I'm like a broken down record with Kyogo, but it's true.
No, it's true.
It's just not acceptable what's happened.
Aye. In the comments, David says, need Maeda up front for the pace on the break. Chris Fraser says, Dyson Maeda in the middle, Forrest and Nigren either side of him. This comment,
I actually think that's the one. I think that's that. If I was Brendan Rodgers, I'd be tempted to do that because it looks like Nigren's possibly got a goal in him coming off the side.
And then bring Engels.
I know he was moved central by the time he'd scored his second goal against Livingston, but clearly he's got a knack for scoring a goal.
But bring Engels back in with a Tatty McGregor.
I think it brings Engels back into the team. He's got legs. He's got power. He's got strength. I mean, the thing I quite like about I've always said this about Engels last season. I said it quite a lot that a lot of people were picking on Engels and about his individual performances and how he wasn't quite shining. So I always felt Celtic played better when Engels was in the team.
Aye, I don't really get it with Engels. I don't see. He's not blown out, pulled up any trees or blown everyone away. I think he's quite a classy player, though. I think he's a good player. Yeah,
and I think this might be just the type of game where he really makes the breakthrough, where he really blossoms. You know, go and let him boss a game like that.
Aye.
I think you can. And as I say, the dead ball thing can be absolutely crucial.
Aye. In the comments again, Scotland the Brave, he says, Daniel, does Balikwisha get a start? And this is obviously Michel-Ange Balikwisha, story on Record Sport Online today. Apparently, he's very close to signing for Celtic now. Who knows, Swanee? Who knows what's going to happen? But he says, does he get a start or has he not made the cut intended part of the squad? Can he be added? I'd play him, Maeda and Yang until we get more winning. Obviously, you can't join halfway through a tie and play, but I thought it was worth mentioning that. Yeah. Right, obviously Sunday, so the game's on Tuesday. Celtic touchdown there. I think that I read it touchdown at 7 p.m. UK time, so they'll probably get in there pretty soon. How do you think it'll go, Swanee? Do you think they'll get through?
Yeah, I think Celtic might just get. I mean, again, we've only got the evidence really of the first 90 minutes at Celtic Park. When you're gauging Kairat Almaty, I would never lie and pretend to be an expert on the Kazakhstani top flight. They certainly showed they had a little bit about them as well.
Yeah.
But Celtic just didn't play. And you would have to imagine that if Celtic do turn up and play as they can, with the intensity that they can bring, you would have to imagine they can win it, even if it's just by the odd goal.
I completely agree. And I don't want to say this. I think it might be extra time penalties. I think Celtic will get through.
Time Mick Gannon will be lucky if he's at the stadium for 2 in the morning.
He'll be on his fourth.
I can remember being there about 1 in the morning one time, one of the games. It seemed crazy times.
He'll be on his 4th horse supper by the time we get into penalties.
Maybe 10 things like that.
No, he likes his horses. You've seen the other night. He tried horsemen.
Yeah, I like my horses, but I'm not keen on eating them.
I couldn't get a hole in.
I wonder how the Kazakh fans felt when they came to Glasgow last week about the food over here.
Aye.
We're not so impressed.
Pizza crunch.
Indeed.
I think that brings to the end of Sunday night's Hotline Live.
Yeah, I've just been back with my dad.
With Record Sport, I'm going to put the horse on. Thank you very much for all the comments. We appreciate it as ever. It's been great. And we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. We hope you can join us then. Swanee, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel. All the best, everyone.
Cheers, and thanks for watching at home.